So this evening, you're here for couples therapy on... No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much for joining. This evening is the demonstration that when you have a dream, everything's possible. You have all taken time out of your busy schedules to come and be with us on the first ever live podcast in Luxembourg. And this is going to be recorded, as you can see. Peter has already been doing an amazing job. We will make formal introductions afterwards, of course, and Peter's going to be hanging around. Obviously, he kind of needs to take the materials home with him. And this is going to be recorded so you can also interact with us. We will later on have a Q&A, and everything that has been said and that we've spoken about, you'll be able to interact with us. It will be recorded, of course. The mere fact that you are here means that that's something that you may or may not be okay with. If you're not okay with it, come and see us and we can make arrangements.
Yeah, something that I want to add is this is not scripted at all. This is, everything can happen here. Emotions sometimes are coming. So based as well on my experience doing the podcast, I realized that sometimes we trigger some things. So feeling free to cry, to love, to do whatever you wanted, because we are creating a safe space as well here.
Absolutely. And so Safe Spaces is what this podcast is all about. And so this evening, I'm going to be your host and Maria is going to be my guest. So we're going to be walking through the journey with a series of questions, and what I'm kind of hoping is that this is going to inspire you to go a bit further in your journey. We all have something to bring to the world, and we mean that very, very sincerely. And I am absolutely not the star of the show this evening. Maria, I admire you. I am your first fan. And I have to say, I'm quite impressed. You've managed to bring all of these people together for one evening. This is the first of many, of course. So we're going to start with a little story of what it was like to be you. And please tell us a bit more about the origins of when you arrived in Luxembourg. No network, no connections, no voice.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience.
Well, thank you for that introduction. That makes me feel even more empowered. I think your support have been, for me, key to really do all the things that I have been doing here in Luxembourg. And as you well said, when I arrived in Luxembourg 8 years ago, alone, not network, with a tiny voice, let's say, even when I was in that time part of the corporate world. So when you are part of the corporate world, maybe you are thinking, well, I have a voice, right? But I arrived and I felt in a box, in a little box in which I was part of. She is a Latina and she's doing marketing. That was all. And that for me was like having in front of me like a monster, in the sense, how can I recover my voice? So a little bit of my background is I'm coming from the United States and Colombia, and I'm Colombian. So being in that world, of course, gave me a voice. So I was part of the corporate world and doing many things there that give me something different to show to the society, and not just the Latina doing marketing. So I was always thinking, I am much more than that. So arriving to Luxembourg, and even when I arrived in a good conditions, it was trying to connect, trying to build something that was meaningful for me. So the only one thing that I was doing in that time, it was working. And that sounds a bit like the only one thing that you was doing was working. And yes, it was the only one thing that I was doing working, but not generating these meaningful connections that are the ones that really make you feel that you belong, that you are here for a reason. And then I decide, okay, I need to do something to recover my voice. But not only recovering my voice, but recovering the voice or giving the voice to all those women, especially, that wanted to have a voice and show their voice to the universe. Why not? So more or less, that was my beginning in Luxembourg, alone. Actually, during pandemic, I was completely alone. having a very good relationship with myself.
It's a good place to start. Unless there's wine involved, in which case, this is a slightly different meeting. And I said earlier on, I'm definitely not the star of the show. Maria's the first star. But then this is actually all about you. You look around the room and you are the reason why we are here. You have been instrumental, and some of you have been on the podcast, some of you have been following from the very, very start. And this is about stories, the 100 women that you have interviewed. Sorry, I said 100 women. I made my first mistake. By the way, I'm going to make loads of mistakes this evening, and that's perfectly fine. You've interviewed 100 people, not just women, and that's fundamental. We're going to come back to the principles of allyship afterwards. Would you like to tell us a few stories? And of course, we're going to hear from a few of them later on. Would you like to tell us a few of those moments and stories that you lived through the podcast?
Yeah, well, that is brought me back to the beginnings, to realizing how I was just curious about how women have been designing their brands. So when I arrived to Europe, I wanted to be more focused in branding. My background is in marketing, so I wanted to discover how the people made decisions to buy stuff. So then I realized that women have this special way to design and do things differently than other genders. As I have been always saying, it's not about gender, it's about how we can collaborate with others. So in that time, when I started doing all the interviews just to women and asking to them how they have been creating their brands, and I was very surprised to realize that they are not just talking about the brand, but talking about the story behind the brand. And the story behind the brand, it was an entire, it's like a
Episode?
well, it was an entire episode, but it was all the up and downs, all the things that they have to leave when they arrive, for example, because Luxembourg is a place when you arrive, you need to build your network. You need to open the path for you. So I start realizing how many people have been really trying to open their brands, open their businesses, and having moments in where they can really crash without realizing that probably it was not many possibilities that how they have been imagining before. So realizing that made me feel as well very vulnerable to try to give a voice to some realities. So I started realizing that the podcast was something that I couldn't kind of sugarcoat it, where people come and say, yeah, everything is fantastic, everything is okay, yeah. Then I started realizing that that was not the case.
Yeah.
So the stories was many stories in which it was kind of an alarm, a call for me in the sense that, well, what is it really happening?
Yeah.
And going into each of those guests that I have had, allow me to know more details about their lives, more details about how the things have been for them. Let's say the other side of the coin. And that really allowed me to bring into myself many things to learn, many things to feeling aligned or to feeling, I'm feeling identified about what you are living. So I am not alone in this journey. And that gave me a lot of power in the sense that I have information that the people just decide to come, trust me, and deliver. So this is part of the many stories that, if you have the opportunity to go and listen to some of the episodes, you will realize that each of those episodes bring a lot of information. From each of those episodes, you can listen into and realize that all of them have this story behind and these things that is touching your feelings and making you learn something or getting some impact, things to apply, basically.
There's something that I'd like to come back on, which is that phrase, I am not alone. And that's probably one of the first key takeaways that we would love for you to walk away with this evening. We'd love for you to look around the room, realize that you're all here. You've been invited, of course, But this is a network. This is more than just your relationship with the podcast, more than your relationship with Maria, whatever that relationship might be, friendship, professional. But I think that one of the things in, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's the corporate life, one thing that the podcast has taught us is how we can actually start from scratch and build and bring together that network of people that genuinely care. And you don't need that many. You look around the room, like somewhere between 20 and 30, and that's enough. And that's something that the podcast has taught us as individuals, because, I'm not originally from Luxembourg. Maria's not originally from Luxembourg. In fact, is there a Luxembourger in the room? Peter? Peter, are you a Luxembourger? There we go.
Imported.
You're,
Born and raised in Luxembourg, but not from Luxembourgish parents.
There we go. So Peter is an imported Luxembourger, and some of us might have the nationality. The whole point is you're not alone. And that's one of the first key messages that we want to put across. In terms of the execution of the podcast, you saw that we had some prep work, and that's kind of the behind the scenes. Would you like to tell us a tiny bit more, for those who haven't been on the podcast yet, what the process actually looks like of you reassuring people, taking people through the steps of being on the podcast, and how first you create that connection and then you get people into the podcast? What does that look like?
Well, that looks like that have been given a big step since the moment that I have started. Because when I started, we were actually trying to find people to come to the podcast and calling everyone and trying to connect and trying to go and said, well, look, I have an amazing podcast. Why you don't come and be my guest? And I have been receiving a lot of people that said, oh, well, that sounds good, but what are your numbers? How many people are following you? What is your purpose? People probably at the beginning didn't have the clarity to really understand what was my purpose, because I have a really very short time doing that. And I start just to interview my friends, the friends of my friends, asking to people that come to the podcast and said, can you recommend me someone? So I start to build a net, basically, that have been allowing me to connect with even more people and more people and more people. And I am so proud today, of course, to say that Philippe have helping me a lot, in the sense that he was attracting people. And the first thing that he said always, it was, and Maria have a podcast and you can come and join her to the podcast. And that was amazing, because even I was not introducing myself when we arrived to an event, and I was already, Maria is the one with the podcast, Maria. Yeah, he was pushing me. So that allowing me to give myself to know to many people that probably never had the opportunity to know who I was. So at the beginning, everybody was saying, hi, Philippe. Philippe now is in the contrary way.
It's actually quite funny, because, and that's very true, we would be walking down the road and it was like, oh, Philip, how are you doing? So I go to a lot of networking events and do a lot of entrepreneurial activities. And afterwards, and there was this really subtle shift, and all of a sudden I became, I'm not the star anymore. It's so nice as a spectator, because I am really like kind of behind the scenes. I see, and do you want to say that thing about the ironing board?
Yeah, well,
I mean, if we're going to give everything, we might as well just give everything, right?
yeah. Basically, it's how I start the podcast. And the moment that we decide, we were brainstorming one day, and I was saying to Philip, I want to recover my voice. I really find the way to show who I am, but in a more natural way. I don't want to script it. I don't want it to do a video and just said, well, look, I am this or that or doing this or that, but I wanted to do differently. And in that time, Philip and I arrived to this, okay, let's do a podcast, and I start to do a podcast. And I start the first 3 episodes, I did it just voice podcast. And I was reading a text, and I was saying things about branding and all those things. And I was feeling a bit like, I don't know if that is good or not. Why don't include video? Let's include video, that people see my face and, next step. And I start to include video, but can you imagine this? We were living in a tiny apartment in that moment. And the only one thing that I have to build a set, it was an ironing board. So I just put the ironing board, put in my computer, and in that time I had a really bad computer. So that was terrible. That was terrible. So I was putting the computer. I have the ironing board, and I started to do these episodes alone. And I was seeing myself in the camera and wondering, this is horrible. I mean, this is terrible. I'm feeling so bad. No. And the process of accepting yourself is part of the growing with the podcast as well. You know, the process of listening to your own voice, I was saying, this is not me. I mean, this is a woman reading a text at the beginning. And then seeing myself speaking, I said, oh, no, look at how I'm speaking. No, I don't know how to pronounce. Oh, my English is terrible. And it was the only things because we become ourselves criticizing ourselves in many different ways
Self-critics, yeah.
that we are not realizing. But if we let the things stopping us to continue, probably I will not be able to deliver the work that I have been delivering. And I commit with myself every week, doesn't matter how or where, I put in my ironing board. And I just recorded the episode. Of course, bringing together the people that are coming, the guests. So I start to just pitch many different women, would you like to come? And people start to believe in me, believe in the fact, okay, you know, why not? And then learning. So my learning curve in doing the interview, I mean, no, the pre-production, the production, the post-production, it was everything doing by myself. So it was not like of course I was listening people that said, well, we have a team for finding the guests, another team that is doing the production, another team that is doing the editing. Well, I have to learn everything by myself. YouTube, it was my best friend, doing and learning by doing. The beginning, really not having the best things, but always wanted to give my best and making so professional for people to have the best experience as well, because the guests as well, I am making them live experience coming to the podcast. It's not just like, well, would you like to come to the podcast? Okay, I'm going to ask whatever. But they need to really feel in a safe place. And that have been basically what I have, or the structure that I have built around the podcast, not just with the ironing board, but with all the processes in the preparation of my guests, in making them feel connected with me. Because I think the success episodes, or the more successful episodes that I have had, it is the ones that I have making a very good connection with that guest. That have been making a huge difference. And when my guests arrive, like, sorry, I am late, I realized that the episode was not having the same impact. It was not the same. So then I started to adjust things. So then I prepare a video to send them the day before and said, well, you can have a breathing exercise, you can inhale, then exhale. And I was breathing, I was looking myself and sometimes thinking, well, they are using that or not. And everybody was calling me after and said, wow, it's so useful, this video that you sent it to me. Thank you very much, because now I have learned many things. So more than just recording an episode, is making my guests and the people that come to the podcast have an experience. I have been speaking too much.
It is a podcast, so speaking is kind of part of the game. So you don't need to worry too much. The whole point here, and a few of the takeaways, is that you take people on a journey, and the journey that you're all on individually, whether you're in corporate, whether you're starting your startup journey or your entrepreneurial journey, or you want to grow wherever you are, imperfection is all part of the game. And that you've illustrated it perfectly with this whole, the ironing board and going on YouTube and just figuring out how it's done. And that's kind of the truth. This is the behind the scenes of anything that you want to do, anything that you want to try, and try something new. And of course, in the beginning, it's going to feel super uncomfortable. And that's true for everyone. And I think one of the things that we want to dismantle is this whole myth of success, of only wanting to show, the beautiful and the pretty and the I did really well and these are my results. And the truth is, behind every single entrepreneur is a whole bunch of stuff that they just don't want to talk about. And the ironing board in the beginning, we were like, how embarrassing. We're using an iron board. But that's the whole point. That's where you can start. And it's super low tech. It's, you were using a crappy old computer, but it doesn't matter because you got it done. And so that's what I find incredibly inspiring is the whole grit and determination of, this evening happened. You've been talking about this for months.
Yeah.
I want to make it happen. And so this is just a demonstration of if you've got one of those seedlings of something that you want to do, something that you feel inspired to bring to the world, do it. And I know it sounds a bit cliche to say that. Just do it. By the way, I hope that's not trademarked because otherwise I'm in trouble. This has been recorded. So the whole point is, and thank you so much for showing us that sometimes what you need to do is operate in the quiet dead of night that allows you to then say, chip away, chip away, chip away, and then show people, look, it can be done. By the way, 100 was never necessarily a goal. It's just a milestone, right? This thing never ends. And you can tell us a bit about the impact that you're hoping to make on the world.
Yeah. Well, I started 2 years ago, and I have been committed myself to deliver 1 episode per week. So that allowed me to arrive to the 100 episodes after these 2 years. And this is a milestone, as Philip explained. And the reason why this is a milestone is because it's a strong purpose behind. It's not just doing something because we wanted to fill our time or we wanted to have a little bit of exposure. It's something that if we put a purpose behind, the things are coming. The universe is conspiring you to give it to you what you want and what you need to make that happen. This is one of the examples where I just put the things out and said, I wanted to do a podcast live. I want to people come and see us recording the episode live. And the universe was giving that to me in the way that now is happening. This is the moment, it's here. And with a strong purpose behind. And we are going to talk about the purpose later. But what makes me very, very proud of you that come to this event is the fact that my idea was not that crazy in the sense that I wanted to really deliver the show live because have more impact. I have been realizing how across a screen, people are having the impact because they are listening to the episode. But now when you see doing the live, I think for me is, since the beginning, I think Alexandra told me, are you nervous? And I said, no, I am so excited. And the fact is actually, this is something that I have been dreaming. So for me, being sitting here is a dream. It's a dream coming to the reality. And actually is better done than perfect. And that was my thing since the beginning. I was just doing things without making that perfect. Not necessarily needs to be perfect in order for you to really make the things done.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you was asking, what is going next, and how I wanted to continue growing that. Of course, with this strong purpose, you will see how across this moment we are going to talk about this purpose that I wanted to bring into the table to really continue adding value and adding value to you as well.
Before we do move on to that part, there's a conversation that we all need to have about our definition of allyship and what it looks like to be allies. And this is something, and I know I'm a guy, so I'm surrounded by all of you amazing, mostly women. The reality is that no matter how much guys help and try and be part of the women empowerment movement, this is something that I wish every single woman heard, and hear it from me, because this is something that we have, unfortunately, and this is kind of the dark side of what we do, we have seen that it's only when women support women. Of course, guys need to be allies, but women need to be the allies of other women as well. And this is, one of the very deep roots of what the message that we're trying to spread. No matter how much I help, no matter how much I show up for other women, if women don't show up for women, we're never going to change anything. And this is not a plea. This is a realization that we have had, because I think it's quite obvious, right? I love my wife to bits. I support her all the way, and I wish that every guy thought the way that I did, right? Obviously, I'm slightly biased, right? But the whole
I will have many guys loving me.
sounds like we need to have a conversation about who loves who. So anyway, I was saying this is couple therapy. Now, the whole point is when you're well surrounded, and it starts here, it starts this evening. If you didn't already have a network, after this, of course, come and give us hugs, come and give us kisses, but meet each other, because this is the social network that you're building. And I am absolutely 100% convinced that if there's one connection that's made, and by the way, this is what success looks like. If one connection, one meaningful connection is made this evening between you, all of a sudden, this entire thing has been worth it. And that's what we aspire to. That's one of our purposes, is to bring people together and to realize that it doesn't actually take a huge amount. All we need is to be willing to reach out to another person.
Yes, now that you are talking about women supporting women, this is something that I really have to say here. I have been living that in a beautiful way. I have been seeing how many women have been supporting me and putting me here in a certain way. It's the women have been giving me a hand to really making me shine brightly. Because I think that we are probably thinking that if we do things alone, we are going to go further, right? But then I realized that we cannot really go further if we are going alone. So we need to go together. I said it that good or not. I always said it in a wrong way.
This is the internal joke, right? So alone, you go fast. Together, we go further.
Yes.
And every single time, we've tried to rehearse this.
No, this is not possible for me.
You took the risk. You took the risk, and sometimes you get it right, sometimes not so much.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyways, I just wanted to come back to the support that I have been receiving from other women. And this is so powerful because I think that when we are really connected, we align. And we align in what we are doing, whatever we need to do to make the things happen. And not feeling alone, of course, with the support of my husband, that is my first support, that have been something absolutely incredible, but as well all the women that have been always giving me a hand. Today, I wanted to say thank you, because this is so meaningful for me and have been making a huge difference. So actually, the message that I wanted to tell you, first, asking for help. Sometimes is for us very difficult to ask for help. Especially some women are, I am not going to ask for help because if I ask for help, and we build an entire universe around that, I am not going to ask for help. Why not? You don't need to do the things alone. You can do it with another ally, another woman that is going to give you a hand. So ask for help, and you are going to have a different journey. And the life is a journey. And if the life is a journey, well, don't go alone to the journey because it's quite boring. So.
It is boring, and thank you very much for pointing that out, because, and I can tell you this as a guy, we're taught from a very young age, don't show your weakness and don't show your vulnerability and don't do this and don't do that, and then you get to a point and you're like, but why? Why am I hiding? And this is something that, watching each other grow, because, some of we're coaches by day and by night, and we help people, and, we do a ton of things, right? But in the end, the thing that makes us grow is the people that we surround ourselves with. And sometimes we have amazing conversations, and sometimes all we'll do is touch a person and then we'll never see them again. But we've maybe planted a seed, who knows? And everybody plants a seed, within us. And that's really the beauty of what we do. And we're not afraid to make those connections. But for that, we need to accept that, people are imperfect, and I can put my hand up and say, I'm going to mess up a ton of times. but I'll carry on showing up. And now that, we're all in the room together, it's perfectly okay. I'm pretty sure that you'll all forgive us for the mistakes that we'll make along the way, because we develop that sense of empathy together, right? And it's all about those relationships that we're building, those deep, deep connections. And sometimes, as I said, it'll just be a one-off thing, but sometimes that's enough to spark something new. Some of you, and we're going to have the pleasure of hearing from some of the guests that have come up on the podcast, and I think that we've come to that point.
Yeah.
We've actually already been talking, believe it or not, for about half an hour. So now the plan is that we're going to have 5 lovely guests. They're going to come up. I am going to leave my seat to you. So it's good because this microphone moves out of the way. So you don't need to worry about moving the microphone. And you're going to have a short conversation with Maria. On that note, thank you very much for your time. I will be around. I'm not leaving. Don't worry. So, transition.
Transition. So I am announcing our first guest, Daniela Butku. Please, welcome.
Slowly.
Well, thank you, Daniela, for being here. And thank you for being one of those women that have been supporting me. One of the things that I wanted to say here in public is, in the moment that I said, well, I'm going to do this event, you was a guest on the podcast, please raise your hand if you wanted to come and be in the stage with me. And, Daniela was the first one that said, that is fantastic, I wanted to go. So, well, first and foremost, I want to give you time to introduce yourself and let them know who you are.
Yes. Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. And I am truly amazed about the amazing community we created here through this podcast and so many amazing people. So thank you for having me. I was not aware I was the first one, but I think this is the consequence of the podcast, because it was my first podcast and then things happened. So my name is Daniela, and I have an experience in marketing, 20 years of marketing like you. And at the moment I'm working in product development in IT. And in my spare time, I'm very passionate about nature and bees. And actually, this was the topic of the podcast we had together.
Yeah.
Yes. When you invited me for the podcast, I thought I will talk about bees, how they are organized, how they communicate with each other, the bees' biology and the life cycle. And I was truly amazed to find out during the podcast and also after how fascinated people are with bees, actually. And some of the people love them, some people fear them. Some people reach out to me telling me how amazing the bees are, and they didn't know, they were not aware that bees can teach us so much about us. And that was the first inspiration, actually, that came out after the podcast.
Yeah, actually, I reached out to Daniela in order to build the story that she's managing with the bees, in order to show how we can compare that with the collaboration that we are having as a human beings. And I remember that you gave me amazing examples. And one of those, it was the queen bee syndrome. And that is amazing, because the queen bee syndrome, and maybe you are the expert here that you can talk a little bit about that, that really shocked me. It was one of the things that I have been wondering after, well, if everybody knows that, so if everybody have a listen to this episode, we learn what that exactly means. Yes. But if you can give us a little bit of a story about that.
Yeah, the bees have a queen, but they don't have the queen bee syndrome. I was saying, because the bees are aerosocial insects, and they work together for the growth of the community. So there is no such hierarchy, or they support each other. So women support women, bees support each other. Majority of the bees are worker females, so this can be a good analogy. And I think if we look at the bees with curiosity and empathy, we can learn so much about ourselves. So that was the topic and the final outcome of what I wanted to say about bees. Yes, and after the podcast, actually, that stayed with me for a while, because I found people are so curious about bees, but not only about bees. They are curious about animals generally and nature. And we grow in those big cities, and sometimes we don't have time to look at the nature, to observe the animals. And I truly believe that when we look with curiosity, we can find so many things about ourselves through the animals. And I wanted to thank you about this podcast because this kind of opened up my mind how many people are so much interested about those curiosity that the nature give us every day if we have eyes to look at. And an output of this podcast was that I continue with my my workshop that I have in my company, teaching people about sustainabilities, about bees. And I also develop another workshop that is focused on social connections and inner wisdom through the animals, through the animal world. Because I think that the nature and the animals don't teach us only biology, like fun facts, but they teach us also how to live generally.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And thank you for sharing that with us because I think it's important to realize how animals are giving us many lessons that we, for example, from bees, how you are wondering, okay, what the bees can give me the lessons about.
Exactly.
But it's a very good point, and I'm happy that you are advancing as well because since the episode, you was delivering one workshop and now another one. So I'm very happy that as well you had the opportunity to build up on your purpose. And one of my questions it will be, can you share with us something related with the moment of the preparation, the during, or maybe the after the podcast, something special that you have had related with the podcast?
It was my first podcast, so I had so many emotions. And actually, until today, I didn't have the courage to listen to the podcast. I was sharing it with my friends and with colleagues, and I didn't have the courage to look at myself because I have this inner critic. So today I was looking at the podcast for the first time, to be honest, because I wanted to understand what I was talking about, and I wanted I wanted to give some example to the people here. And
we did it a year ago, I think. Just to put it you in a context, it was a year ago, more or less.
I know, but then this morning when I was listening to the podcast, something caught my attention.
Yeah.
And among any like many roles that the bees have in the colony, there is one role, and is the nursing bee. So the nursing bee, in every beehive, we have a lot of nursing bees. They are not in the spotlight. They don't go out to forage. They don't go miles. They don't stay in the spotlight. But they are very important for the colony to thrive. So the nurse bees actually cares about the future generation because they nurture them, they feed them. They need to be very careful the way they care about the future generation. And I think this is something exceptional.
Yeah.
Because today we are here because I don't know if I can say the purpose.
Yeah, you can say the purpose, of course. Let the cat out of the bag.
Yes, because many girls in Colombia, they don't have a voice, they don't have visibility, they don't have support. And today we are here to give them a voice and to support them. So it's like in every beehive, the future generation, they will thrive if we act as a nurse bee, like caring about the future and be there for them.
That is a beautiful message, Daniela. I have to say, really impressed me because putting this purpose, thinking that you are not doing the things for yourself, but to others. Yes, please. It is really beautiful. And thank you very much for being here and for sharing your story and for being so brave and said, just today, I listened to my episode because I was not able before to do that. So I'm happy. Yes. I hope that you have learned things from our conversation because I really learned a lot of things from you. So thank you very much. So, well, I don't know if you have a message to close or a special message that you wanted to say.
Yes, thank you for giving me a voice. And this was really important for me. And I'm very happy to be part of this community. And the general message I want to give is that we need to support each other and women support women and we need allies. And also, I think we can find so much inspiration in nature and bees, and not only in bees, all kinds of animals. And if we have curiosity and sensibility, we can thrive and be for each other. And if bees taught me something is that every bee matter, but if the entire hive colony is not healthy, every single bee will not thrive. So this is also with us, as human.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, now I'm going to do a call to Alexandra Slack. Well, dear Alexandra, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to having you here and sharing with you the stage. The first thing is, could you introduce yourself and let the audience know who you are? Where moment in life are you right now?
Thank you, Maria. It's really great to be here with you this evening. I'm Alexandra. I'm a life and career coach for executives and women lawyers. The women lawyers part largely because I was one for a really long time, for about 18 years, trained in the UK and then worked in Luxembourg. And 10 years ago, as part of my development and journey, I trained as a coach. And for the last 10 years, I've been coaching along the side of doing the lawyering. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity through a redundancy process to really throw myself into an entrepreneurship role and build up a coaching practice. So that's what I'm doing, dedicating 100% of my time to doing that. And that was really what brought me to you, Maria, and the opportunity to be on the podcast, was to make myself more visible in that new marketplace.
Yeah, and connecting that with how was that experience on how that episode bring to you different things in life, because I remember well our episode was very emotional in some point. Something very special was triggered there. Yeah. What was that, and what or how you can share that with the audience?
Yeah, I think first of all it was a really special space that you created, which made me feel really safe. And we were talking a lot about the journey that I had gone through in kind of finding my professional self, right? I'd trained as a lawyer and I'd spent a long time working in that profession. And I'd reached a point where I'd lost some of the feeling of who I was. Like there was something missing. I didn't know what it was, but there was definitely this feeling that something isn't right, something's missing. And I started that journey towards what I would now call a kind of journey to wholeness, right? That search for wholeness. And you invited me in the podcast to talk more about that. And I remember talking specifically about one scene that had happened to me after a particularly bad day in the legal office, and sitting in my car with tears streaming down my face, knowing that something was really wrong and I needed to do something different in my life, but not knowing what that was. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, an internal intuitive voice spoke to me and it said, "Don't die with the music still inside." Nothing at all related to my legal work, but it was a massive connection to the creativity in me that had been suppressed for a really long time in my profession. And it was such a brilliant opportunity for me to reconnect to that. And it was the first time I'd said that out loud in public, so to speak. I'd obviously shared it a little bit with very close friends. And I think there was just something really special about the environment that you created, and it made it okay for me to share that part of my soul, right? That I had this creative and expressive side of myself that had been suppressed. And that has been part of my journey towards wholeness, is finding how to express that more and to really go back to my roots in music, and to start writing my own music. And I know it's not out of the podcast specifically, but you have been such an encouragement in bringing music into my coaching practice. So that's been a big takeaway from me.
Oh, amazing. And I am so happy that you shared that, because in that episode, I was crying. In the moment that you expressed that, I felt like I don't know how to manage that, because I just wanted to cry. And how are you going to cry in a podcast with something that really touched you, and how this moment become, and, I said, it doesn't matter, I'm going to cry. And we were crying together, and that was part of generating that moment of wholeness, as you was saying. And then I think that there is people in life which you connect in certain way, a special way, that I don't know, the universe, I'm talking again about the universe, is given to you and put into you the people that is really given to you the support. And you have been one of those, Alexandra. So thank you very much for being here. And my last question is, would you like to share a message? Of course, you have been already sharing a strong message, but with the people that come today to this podcast, the live podcast, do you want to share something with them?
Yeah, I think for me it would have to be around find your voice wherever it feels right for you. It's in there somewhere, and intuitively you might know where that is. There might be a little spark of something, a flutter in the stomach, or you might have a very strong reaction to something that you see or something that someone has said. Don't ignore those intuitive responses. It's very easy to do when we all work in professions which require us to think from here. The body is full of wisdom. So really use that wisdom and find the way to express yourself. And if you have the opportunity, get onto Maria's podcast and do it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm calling Carla Gutierrez. Welcome, dear Carla. Hello.
Very
So happy to having you here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me. And thanks to everyone to be here, because I know that it's very hard. Sometimes you have a lot of things to do, so many things to juggle, and you're here for something, for a reason. And I am very grateful for that. And
Yeah.
the same for you.
Thank you very much. And the first things that you and I have in common, actually, we both are working in branding. And before to say it, could you introduce yourself? That is one of the phrases that I am doing always when I start the podcast. I just wanted to share that with Carla, we share a very similar purpose because Carla as well have a beautiful purpose supporting girls in need in Mexico. So if you wanted to share with us a little bit about your purpose as well.
Okay. I am Carla. I am Mexican. I have been doing advertising all my life. There was a moment I was doing advertising for big brands, Gillette, Pantene, big production budgets, just like creating more communication strategies to push more people to buy the new pair of jeans or the new pair of shoes or the new. And then 5 years ago, when the COVID started, I realized that the world where we live is not necessarily supporting more people to buy more stuff just for the matter of buying more stuff. So instead of doing more communications to push more people to find more things, I wanted to create communications that were having either a social or an environmental impact. My idea, because my ex-clients from Adidas were telling me like, yeah, we want to work with you. So I was like, I'm going to have so much money. I will be able to support, because I'm Mexican in Latin America, we have big issues with homeless, mostly homeless girls. I say with that money, I will be able to support part of my profits, will be able to go to these associations. But the reality is that when you arrive in a country that is not yours and you don't have the family of the people that knows you or that can recommend you or so on, you need to go and knock the doors. And Adidas was telling me, the clients were telling me, we would love to work with you. But then procurement was telling me, but you're a solopreneur, you don't have the capital and you don't have a company, you represent a risk for us. So I went back to the association in Mexico. They have 30 girls in vulnerable situations. And I told them, my idea was that I was going to give you some money, but the reality is that I don't have any money right now, but I have my experience. I have been doing communications for over 20 years. So I want to offer you that. I want to propose, develop some platforms, some strategies in order to do fundraising for your association. So
you did it.
I did it.
Well done, well done.
It was very nice because the people there was telling me, but if you can find shoes or T-shirts or something like for the girls, or find like mattresses, and I was like, I want to do things different, in a different way. I want to empower has been like an overused word, but I wanted to give these girls something that they could take with them for their lives. A T-shirt, but they will use it, and then after it will go over. So I found an art therapist, and we were giving the girls art classes. They were creating a heart with their hands. They were relieving their trauma while they were doing this. And then we did an exhibition. And the girls were able to curate, like they were presenting their pieces. We had very good success. Like I was inviting all my family, all my friends, everybody in Mexico to go to the exhibition. We raised some money, and because of the communications that I was doing there, the government of Luxembourg, there's an association here in Luxembourg of Mexicans in Luxembourg. They heard about it. And then we were able to receive more money, the money that we get from the Bazar Internacional, if somebody is aware of that. So the money that we get there, the money that we spend there is very well spent because it goes to specific associations. So those are the things that fill my heart.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why when you say I'm going to do this, I was maybe not the first one, but probably the second one. I was like, okay, I want to be there. I would love to be part of it.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And one of the stories that I would like you to share with us is related with the podcast, with your experience in the podcast. If I am not wrong, you are one of the most visualizations that I had already on one of the channels. So you told me about a story, beautiful story about one of the members of your family that saw the episode. Can you share that story with us?
I will share that part as the last part that I will say. But what I wanted to say is my experience with the podcast. I think it was the second time as an independent person that was going to be like talking in public. When you invited me to be part of it, I was a little bit afraid. I was like, oh my God, no, I don't. It was also my first podcast. So I was like, no, I don't want to do it. No, I have to do it. And then I realized and I remember that when I started my own business, my own company 4 years ago, every time that I was going to these networking events, the stage was full of men and there was never a woman. And I was like, I hate this. And then like things were like, the time was passing. And then I was seeing one woman in the stage and I was like, okay. Every time that she was like talking, I was like applauding, like, yes, I was feeling so represented. And then when you invited me, like this idea of, I am not going to do it. And then I was like, I have to do it. Because if I see that that's a problem, I need to be part of the solution. So if I take the stage or if I am here, is because I want to show all of you that you all can say yes. And it's not that difficult. And it's not that difficult because you make it very easy. Because the way that you talk and the way that we are getting together and talking feels very safe and feels very comfortable. So I was going to say a few things in terms of never say no when somebody's inviting you to take the stage. Sometimes we feel that we are not ready enough or that we haven't had a certification or we don't think that the things that we have done are going to be so relevant to be shared. And the other thing, responding to your question, is that we never realize how much you get out of being in a podcast and sharing what you do. Because after the podcast, of course, I share it with my family and with everybody. And sometimes you're afraid. You're like, oh my God, they're going to say something or they're going to... I was very happy. I was like proud of it. So I share it with my family. And it was crazy because my father told me, I love your podcast. I love listening to all the things that you have done because I never realized and I never understood what you were doing until now. I was hearing the stories, yeah, the girls, and you have to go. And my father was in Mexico, like buying the hearts and helping and so on. It's like just like listening to you, like talking about like all the story. It made me realize all the additional value that you had. So
Amazing.
yeah.
I'm so happy to receive that feedback.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
No, thank you for sharing that with us. Would you like to close with a message for someone from the audience or for the people listening to the episode later on?
Yeah, I think what you're doing now in terms of a community, in terms of like getting somebody else, supporting somebody else. I think I heard not long ago that we don't have a space, like we as women, we don't have a space in the table. And somebody said about, so then just bring your chair and sit in the table. Like we are the ones that need to do the things. So what I would say is not only bring one chair, bring a second chair, because maybe there is another woman or another person that is just looking for that opportunity. And it's in our hands to work together. We have here 3 fabulous women doing podcasts, and there's like, we can work no matter if we are in branding, no matter if we're in the same area. The world is so big, the pie or the cake is so big, so there is a piece for all of us. And if we do it together, it's going to be a lot better.
Exactly.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, now I want to call Barbara Daroca. So welcome, Barbara.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to having you here.
Me too.
A fellow podcaster.
Well,
Well, the first thing is, could you tell to the audience who you are, but more than who you are, where are you now in your life?
yes. So I'm Barbara. I also work in communications, although I'm not a marketeer the way these women are. I work for a bank, and it's true. I now have also my own podcast because, of course, a full-time job, 2 kids, a dog, and so on wasn't enough. So why not do a podcast also? Yeah. And where am I in my life? Well, in a sense. Kind of like rediscovering a bit myself and reassessing certain things, which has been brought on, among other things, by me being in your podcast and then launching my own podcast. Yeah, you always hear these things like when you're in your 30s and you're a bit sad, it's like, no, 30s is a great, and then 40s is a great area, and 50s. I'm enjoying every decade as it comes. And that's what I'm doing right now, I think.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. I remember in our episode, you were so enthusiastic about all the things, all the process. You was telling me, wow, you are so organized, sending all the information and all the steps. And then you start to asking me, tell me details about how you do your podcast, in more details. And what was the reason why you was asking all those things? Because you wanted to do your podcast, actually.
Yeah, to be honest, I had never really thought about doing the podcast before being with you. But it was, and it wasn't probably not even the fact of being on the podcast is how we got closer together, but we knew each other from before. I had seen you, I always say this, I had seen you already during the pandemic on LinkedIn with videos, and I was a big fan of that. And I had this idea, which is now, of course, the podcast of, rather than an idea, my experience of encountering people, mostly women, but not just, a bit stuck in their professional career. And when I told my story, because I went from structured finance, super technical, super to marketing communications, people would react like, yeah, well, but like that's you, or that was like you're special in the sense that doesn't happen usually. And it's not true. It happens much more often than we think. And back then I was thinking more, I will put it like in a blog or maybe even a book one day. And it was preparing the podcast with you and I was going to talk about the projects that I had at work, that I realized, no, it's much better if the people tell it themselves. But then it still felt like, this is a huge thing. And then you told me about the ironing board. I knew that story. I was like, okay, so this is maybe doable. So definitely. And then we went for lunch several times so I could pick your brain. And, and I copied everything from Maria, really. So I say Maria is the godmother of my podcast. And it is true because, much like my godmother in life, she's been a sounding board and a supporter for which I'm really, really very grateful.
Yeah, I'm so honored about that. And that was what I was doing this question. And the thing is, you live with me the process in where probably I was kind of feeling stuck, trying to look in to monetize the podcast and to doing the things and to connect more people. And I was, of course, to saying to Barbara, how could you help me in some way, shape, or form for me to really get it a different step to this podcast? And we were trying to brainstorm in that time, but it was not really something that just the time was given to me. Just the time and the things are happening and giving to you the opportunity to give yourself to know to others and make things differently. Yeah. So I have to say thank you because as well, now that I see that you decide to give that step and build your own podcast, I'm feeling so proud. I'm feeling so proud in the sense that you have been just doing. Yeah. And there is a big gap when you said, well, I wanted to do this or that, but you are not doing. Yeah. So between wanting and doing, it is something that is quite connected. And that I realized that you have been done. So congratulations.
Absolutely. Just for the background story, I think we talked for like a year before I decided to actually move on. And you mentioned it before, these phrases like better done than perfect and just go out there and do it. And I think I was, because of my own professional background and my own professional journey, very much stuck in it has to be perfect from day one. And it has to be an absolute success from day one. Not from an arrogant point of view, but like that's how I know that I'm doing it right if it's an immediate success. And it was through our conversations that it was like, but if you never launch it, then it will never be a success. You can launch it and not have it be a success, or, if you don't launch it, it will definitely never be a success. So that was also very, very important for me and kind of like the last push that I needed to just do it.
Yeah, well, the only reason why we have been doing podcasts is because we decided to do the first one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the amount of people that is keeping the podcast alive is not that many. So you already arrived to the 20th episode.
Yes.
So congratulations. I have been there, and it's just an amazing sensation. And I just encourage you to continue doing that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And just one thing, would you like to give a message or something that you wanted to say here?
No, so much has been said already this evening. I know. I just want to subscribe to the ideas that have been floated already. Definitely about community. About I really like the pie is big enough. I had a bit of a syndrome of why would I, if Maria already has a podcast, why would I have my own podcast? There's not enough room for both of us, which is not true. And again, the better done than perfect. I think we all have a lot of ideas or like this wish, or I'd love to do this one day. One day is today. Just go do it and try it. I mean, what's the worst thing can happen?
Yeah.
You get invited to Maria's.
Maybe cut your hand. It would be the worst thing.
Yeah, this was just a kitchen accident before coming here. I apologize.
Well, Barbara, thank you very much for being here. Thank you. I just want to call our last guest today, Gabriela Moya.
Hello.
Hello, Gabriela.
Thank you for having me.
Well, welcome again to the Brilliantly Branded podcast.
Thank you.
The episode with Gabriela, we did it in Spanish. She said that she feels sometimes more comfortable speaking in Spanish, and it's as welcome as well other languages to the podcast. So how you feel comfortable in English this time because of our audience, but as well, if you need help in something, count on me.
Much.
So the first things, could you introduce yourself and let us know who you are or where where moment in life are you right now?
First of all, to say thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity always. It's a podcast is not just speak. It's really to share thoughts. And it's a moment that we as guests start to think more deeply of ourselves. And it's great because it's like a mirror. And that's why I was feeling with you in
Yeah.
Spanish.
Wow.
About my brand, that was so nice this morning because, as Barbara knows, I am dyslexic, and it's like I take off, all of my clothes and say I have to say that one of my issues in my life is I am dyslexic, and I had TDA. I discovered this year, but it was the common thing that is happening in my life. But I was living like this, no. And the struggle with languages for me is a thing. No, it's a thing. Writing, and that's why I bring my paper, because some of the words, something of what I think I say is not what I want to share in my
Okay.
mother tongue.
We love you in the way you are, so no worries. You can share whatever you want
No,
to share.
it's not what I try to say is not because I am like this. Actually, I'm very grateful about my dyslexia, because otherwise I can do it what I'm doing. I mean, I am very, as you can see, I'm very colorful. My life is all of
Visuals.
visual things.
Visuals,
My
yeah.
memory is like this. I can tell a story just because I see the film. I mean, my world is like this. And how they start, Auca is a story. But today, when I'm starting to, write some of the ideas to come up, I decide to tell a story that I never says before. And it's because I was, before, in the middle of the COVID, I decided to be divorced. And it was this moment when women like us, no, migration in another continent with a daughter, says, okay, and now, because for me, it was always an issue to find the proper job. The proper job for me in Ecuador, in South America, in Colombia, in Ecuador, in Mexico, I was the queen of us. I mean, I would just open the door and find a job. I had many things. I never had, the common salary, but it's the common thing of a artistic person like I am. When I came here to Luxembourg, it was so difficult to fit in the space because I didn't speak Luxembourgish, because I didn't speak French, because my English is a crap, because I am creative, but how I can connect with what I am.
Across your colors.
Now I can speak. But at that moment, when I decided to have divorce, and say, okay, but I can't move to my country because it's Luxembourg. I mean, I can take my daughter her home because it's her home. She born here and it's her place. And for other side, back to Ecuador or being in Spain, whereas his father is not, for me, was not meaning. It was not fair. But was this moment that as I tell the story of how I start to connect, I always made things at home, no, with fabrics, sketches, drawing. And I was drawing with my daughter. And I was thinking that moment that what it was my crack in this situation was how I can translate all my identity roots to my daughter. She's not living in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Although she speaks with me Spanish very well, I mean, with accent and everything, it's difficult to say how I can. We were in Ecuador many times, just in Christmas with the family, but for me, the identity, cultural thing is another thing.
Yeah.
And how I can, connect.
Yeah.
And there start the textiles in my life. And when I found a textile of my grandmother at home, I decided to make things with my daughter. And I say, there's a moment in this part of my life that I start podcast. It was a platform when I decided to make with a girl here in Luxembourg that we tell stories about the creativity of, in that moment, what was artistic in way, not just women. But we decided to focus on women, and we choose 10 artists. And the idea of this was to connect that creativity, the moment that you have this moment to make something, from painting till musicians, whatever it is. And we won like a support of the government, and we started filming. I was the director, the editing, the cameraman, whatever.
That sounds familiar for me in
That's
some way.
Latin style. We are doing everything. But when I was filming, and my co-partner was making this interview, I felt so bad. It's not what I want to say. It's not what I want to ask.
Yeah.
If I were in the other part,
Yeah.
And I was dating, and I realized in that moment that I want to tell another story, and it's my story.
Yeah.
And I told you this part of this project, because at that moment, when I was making these texts with my daughter, I realized that the story that I want to tell is my identity.
Yeah.
And when I see the first, it's not this fabric. It was a very, very old fabric that I bring from my grandmother at home. It's like, bring something. And I say, maybe we can cut and do something for her. But she gave me, and when I say this, I say, I never saw in Ecuador, I can say in Ecuador, no, even in Peru or Andinas countries, that they're doing really contemporaneous or modern style with the traditional fabrics.
Yeah.
And it was a super beautiful dress. And I say, maybe we can do in the other way. What if I tell the story of who are doing these fabrics, and in the end, we made a dress or something special. And I'm starting to do, like founding with WhatsApp video or whatever, and the story became in another way. And Auca came to me. It's like, it was so organic, so natural, and I say, that's the moment.
In fact, all the story, you can listen it in an entire episode. Actually, the episode had captions in English. So it is an amazing story. And actually, when Gabriela came, she told me something like, if I'm speaking too much, please stop me. So, well, this is what I'm doing right now, because I'm sorry about that. But the thing, she had an amazing story, and please go and listen to the entire episode. I invite you to do that. But most importantly, your experience doing the podcast, because as you will explain, for us to be part of the society or belonging to Luxembourg could be quite tricky. But having the podcast outside and giving yourself to know how that works for you.
As you say, and it's true that this is being a community. No, I mean, although I am talking with you because it was so beautiful, you invite me to your home, we share your space. Although we were so in this intimity place, the connection was amazing. I had so many, messages about, I didn't know that. Oh, it's so beautiful. Where I can find you, no? And that time I didn't have my website. I was working on, but it was so, so unique how a story touched, someone, and they came to me with ideas, or I knew someone to can help you with. And
It's
it was
building your network.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Amazing. Well, I'm so happy that you really
so
enjoy
much.
the episode, enjoy the story, enjoy as well. It was one of the in-person episodes that I did, no across the screen. So that really make a big difference. And
The energy, no?
The energy, and probably is the same that we generate in those spaces.
Yeah.
That I wanted to continue doing that.
Of course.
So Gabriela, thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Yes. Okay.
Great. Please, I am now invited Philippe back.
Actually, I'm not going to be sitting for all that long, am I? Because we've
No.
got something to show.
Exactly. So what are the next steps, right? So
Ta-da.
now is each of you, and I wanted to say thank you because you follow my idea of receiving a donation, a representative amount to give to a purpose, a big purpose. This purpose is supporting the education for girls in my origin country, Colombia. Those girls are living in the rural areas. And I just decide with this event, I'm going to say to people, you can come and do a voluntary donations, and I am going to use this money to give it to them different ways to increase their possibility to have better access to the studies, to the school, to the education. So what we are going to do, we are going to share a video that tell a little bit that story, where your money is going, what is going to happen. And formally, we are going to launch something that, well, you will see. I'm not going to to say more details. I don't know if you wanted to add something else.
This is the start of something. And like everything that we've done this evening, it's the beginning. And so your donations, and again, thank you so much for your generosity, because this is going to help, as you'll see, young women, girls, probably become, and no, definitely become the leaders of tomorrow. So just to manage expectations, and actually we can already say it, we've raised over 2,000 euros. And I don't know if you realize how big that is in such a short amount of time. So I think you all deserve a huge round of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, what's going to happen with that money, as you've started describing, this is actually going to be an ongoing process until the end of November, and we're going to carry on collecting money. One of the call to actions, and some of you might have more experience than us, we're trying to raise as much as possible by then so that we can have the biggest impact possible. So my call to action, and please come and see us afterwards, is if you know people who know how to raise funds in that sense, more than happy to have a conversation.
Colombia is a land of contrasts. From the mountains to the sea, you find a country full of color, beauty, and heart. The people, generous, talented, resilient. There is brilliance everywhere. But not everyone gets the same chance to shine. In some areas, children grow up without access to the basics, a proper uniform to go to school, or even a simple school kit. Neither a proper classroom, nor a playground. And yet, they show up, they dream, they try. This mission is personal for me. Giving has always been part of my family story. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father. They all quietly support others, especially in these rural areas. And I have always carried that spirit with me. A few weeks ago, I received a message from the director of a small school in Colombia. My tears came as I read it out loud to my husband, Philip. She said, sometimes even the smallest act of support can completely change the path for one of these girls. And I thought, this time, we can do it together. As you look at these girls, I invited you to think about your own children. How much we take for granted their notebooks, their safe spaces, their dreams being supported. And now, think of these girls, these boys, same potential, same dreams, just a different starting point. By supporting this school, you are not just helping today, you are investing in the future, in the next woman who will represent her country, the next girl who will become an astronaut or climb the highest mountain in the world because someone believes in her. They need support, they need role models, and this is how we grow together. This is the heart of the Brilliant community. We are here to grow. not in isolation, but side by side, to support, to connect, and act with purpose. We have the opportunity to build a future together, not alone, not later, together, starting now. So please, join us and be part of something that matters. Let's grow brilliant together, and thank you very much for your donation. This is going to make a huge difference for these little children. Thanks a lot.
So that's it. I became a bit emotional doing the video.
Really?
I'm projecting
Why?
that to you.
First time she showed it to me, I was like, right, okay, how do we move on from that? And I'm like, it's dusty in here because big boys don't cry, obviously. So when you follow the QR code, and this is the official launch of the Brilliant community, it's not all about branding anymore. Of course, brilliantly branded, the podcast will carry on. But the community this evening with you all is born. For some of you, our speakers this evening are already part. You already have your profile. And in true startup form, this is going to be the MVP, the minimum viable product. And what we're going to do is, if you want, of course, there's absolutely no obligation. There's no fee. You don't have to pay for anything. When you scan the QR code, you'll be taken to a registration page and you can just fill in your details. And the whole point is that you can connect together. I mean, of course, this evening you're going to connect with each other on LinkedIn. For those of you who don't know the QR code thing on LinkedIn, come and see us afterwards. We'll show you, like we've shown so many people. But the whole point is for you to connect, for you to grow. Yeah. And one of the things that we said earlier on, a huge success for us would be if there is one meaningful connection that is made this evening. You're all meaningful to us. You have all touched us in many different ways. So we walk away from this evening already feeling absolutely amazed by just what a tiny bit of will. And here I can say something to you, my darling. I'm so proud.
That was not expected.
Yeah, well, happy birthday. No, I'm kidding. It's not her birthday.
I wanted to say something about the community. And the community have something that is actually part of what this community was created, to grow together. And part of grow together is knowing how we can show our superpowers, but swap our superpowers with somebody else. So this is the best part, that once you know, probably you don't have all the powers in the life, but you have somebody else that can come and support you. So in the website, you will see that there is another people that have different powers than the powers that you can have. And you can be a match for that person, or that person be a match for you. So don't hesitate to, in the description of what is my superpowers, be so clear about what is the things that you can offer to the world. Not necessarily focuses in business, money, business. This is something more like how can I give first to the universe, and the universe will end up giving back to me.
Yeah. One thing that we do want to make very, very clear, we are not advocates of do everything for free. Please don't make the mistake of thinking that we want you to give your value away. We're here to make connections. We're here to build a community. And for the moment, the reality is the best way that we've found is just to say, look, actually, tiny reverb, the best way that we can do is just connect you together and kind of see what comes out of it. We're building, and one of the feedbacks that we would absolutely love from you is, what does the community want? How can we add value to you? And the truth is that right here, right now, we don't actually have an economic model. We haven't set out to, try and drain you of all of your cash. That's not the point, right? One of the things that we want to do is build meaningful connections, because who knows, we might all benefit from it.
Yep.
Again, and this time, I won't tear up. I'm proud of you. I am
Thank you.
so admirative of everything that you've achieved. And Maria shows grit and determination. And if you walk away with anything, please let it be that you can do whatever you want. This started as an idea. Like 2 years ago, we were brainstorming. It's like, what could we do? Why not a podcast? First time we said brilliantly branded, it was a mouthful. It was like, but that's really hard to say. And it just grew and grew and grew. And look at where we are. And that was just 2 years ago. So where are we going to be in 2 years? Honestly, no one knows. We don't. Your guess is as good as ours.
Yeah.
But on that note, with the launch of the community, thank you to all of our speakers.
Yes.
It's amazing. And I've got a fly that wants to join the conversation around me. You'll probably see it on the video. My darling,
Yeah.
do you have any last thoughts that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, well, one very important is a big, big lesson that I have learned, and probably you all can start applying it. And it's basically, I was talking that with Barbara, actually. It is how close is the word I want with the word I'm doing. And with the word I want, we want an extraordinary life. But I'm going to leave you with a question, and it's, are you doing extraordinary things to arrive to the place where you want to go?
On that note, thank you once again, one and all.
I'm grateful by having you as a listener on this episode. I am in the mission of empowering thousands of women around the globe, and I need your support for that. Help me to spread the voice by sharing this episode and subscribe to our social media channels. And remember, if you want to listen to exceptional stories and have someone that inspires you, please get in touch with me, because I will love to have them as a guest to learn from their experience and share their story with you next time. So until the next episode, ciao, ciao.